Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cherish TV. We are so glad you joined us. We are 5 friends who love chatting with each other. We won't always agree, but what we can agree on is that we want to make the world a better place. We have different stories, different journeys, and different points of view, but we want to bring you a different view according to the topics that are swirling around our world right now. So let's get into it, girls. Let me introduce my co-host, Miss Ashley. Always wonderful to have you.
Thank you, thank you.
Looking very biker chic, by the way.
Listen, I'm trying to be kind of, you know, I don't know, rebel-ish, I suppose.
Ooh, okay, not too rebellious. Anyway, Stacey, wonderful to have you. Beautiful Michaela Ray.
Hey, everyone.
How are you holding up after your little, back and forth with Emma last week?
At the end of the day, we love each other, we're friends, so we're good.
So you can agree to disagree nicely with civility.
Exactly.
I like that. I think that is the key. And Lisa Hunley, welcome to Cherish TV. It is great to have you with us. Beautiful Lisa, your first time here. What I know about you is you're a beautiful woman. And you're a fierce athlete, among other things, and also a dental hygienist and a pastor. Yeah. But tell us a little bit about your athletics, because I got to experience your athletic prowess for the first time in Big Bear this past winter when I saw you bowl, and you just smashed the competition.
Yes, I just got my second bowling ball. Michael bought me one for
You have your own?
You own your own
bowling ball.
It's hot pink and black, and then I have matching bowling shoes.
As one should, yeah.
So, yeah, bowling. My other favorite recently is kickball, which is awesome.
Kickball.
Yeah,
I thought that was
sports.
retired like in 5th grade. I don't remember playing that.
It's the only sport that we can actually play.
Everything old
I play
is new
second
again,
base.
though. Yeah.
Yes.
Old school is
So
becoming
I
new
love
school.
it.
So kickball
And I love sports, so swimming, water polo, kickball, everything. But don't ask me to cook you dinner. I can make you like one thing.
Well, we can't be good at everything. That's true. But your husband cooks a lot.
Yes.
Michael's like Superman.
He can come cook for you too.
Okay. You know what?
She volunteers in it.
Nice of you to share. Yeah, okay. Well, I want to get into our first topic. Our first topic of the day is, what does successful leadership look like? Let's particularly talk about what it looks like for women. We don't want to be exclusive here, but what does it look like to be a good leader? The world needs good leaders.
Totally. I think women, we kind of discount ourselves sometimes as leaders in all the areas because we touch a lot of areas, whether we're working, we're stay-at-home moms, or just in our life in general as a wife. But we are leaders. Like, we have a really powerful voice, and we carry such atmosphere with us. We have the power to create atmospheres around us. And so as women, I think we really have to recognize that we are leaders and we have to step into it. And I had to overcome this myself and realize one day, like, I can't act like a brat. I can't show up to church all ticked about the fight that I had with my husband on the way to church. And one of my friends, thank God for friends, said, Kayla, you have a really bad look on your face, and you're like walking into church to serve. And I'm like, oh, crap. So I just realized I have to become a leader in the areas that God's called me to and step into it and
lead yourself, obviously.
Exactly, lead myself,
have to lead ourselves first.
Lead into God, and as leaders in all these different areas, be confident in that area that you're in, and be secure. So I see some stay-at-home moms, and I've made a choice to work and be a mother, work part-time and be a mom, because I know it's better for me as a person. I can be a better woman, I can be a better leader in those areas, because I know if I was at home with my kids all day long, every day, it would be scary. I would be...
You need that break. You need to be able to engage that part of you, because you have a college degree. You have a college degree in marketing.
Advertising and communications.
Right. Okay. So you wanted to use that, degree in that area of your life that is a strength, as well as be a great mum at the same time.
Exactly.
And you are a great mum.
You're
a fantastic mum. So you're able to balance both of those pretty well, from what I can see. So, ladies, I want to ask, what does a good leader look like? What are some characteristics or qualities of someone who leads well?
Well, I think that, the qualification of a leader is actually being confident in your own expertise. And we all have different expertise. And I found that, I've led both in the corporate sphere, and then I've led, in church, and I've led men and women. And I found that I need to be confident and an expert in what my field is, and then be myself in that particular role.
Right.
And I think that, you know, and I get a lot of questions a lot of times about, you know, well, how do you do that? How do you lead men? How do you lead, you know, how do you lead women? And I would say this, I think I have learned a little bit of the art of communication, and that I don't always speak the way that I like to speak or I like to be heard. I actually will adjust myself for the person that's sitting in front of me. How will they receive? And if I'm a woman, I'm not going to try to be a man. I have to speak and be myself, but I can tweak how I speak.
Right.
So I would know that in talking to a man and, you know, leading men in a particular area, I'm not leading them in all spheres. I'm leading them in an area of my expertise.
Right.
So I'm confident in that, and I don't have to overcompensate.
Yes.
And so then from that place, you know, you keep it what it is. I don't try to go out and, let's go get drinks afterwards, and, you know, like,
watch the game, bro.
Let's watch the game, bro. Like, wow, that doesn't even sound like.
And leading men, I found, well, living with men, I have 3 sons, I have a husband, but then also living and leading with men just in the church sphere as a pastor, I find men typically disengage with a lot of detail.
Yes.
Like they want the headlines, they don't want the fine print. And so to learn how to communicate to the people we're leading in a way that they will receive it is so important. And it is different strokes for different folks.
And you got to change, you know, I learned too, you know, you can speak and not have a whine. Not bring things through and leaning into the side of complaint. Instead, actually just confidence in the particular subject that you were on, and then speak into that instead of all the fluff, all the detail, all of that. And that's the truth of it. Women, men, they, it's talking in a way that they receive and they understand, not just because this is the way I like to speak or like to be heard. And I've actually found it to be really fruitful. I've actually had a lot of team, and if you asked a lot of my team, I don't think it's just the word on the street. We really like working together. And they're confident in my expertise, and I'm confident in what their expertise is. And so I think it can be a really great, you know, relationship.
Yeah, I think so too. And Michaela, I want to ask you, because you lead a huge team. You lead a huge team, just not only at our North Campus up in Carlsbad, but also a huge team of kids workers. So how are you an effective leader to them? What have you maybe done that hasn't been so good, and other things that have really worked in your leadership style?
I like to think I've done nothing bad, but
We all like to
I'm
think
a rule
that.
follower, so I usually try to do the right things.
Right.
Obviously, not perfection over here,
Yeah.
but creating relationships. I think women as leaders are brilliant at relationships, and we need to push into that. And so finding those key people to pour into, and your highest level people that might need more of your time and your attention, making the time, energy, and giving them the attention that they deserve.
So we need to be engaged.
Yes, be engaged in their
with the
lives.
people
And it's
we're
not
leading.
just leading in the particular area. So if I'm overseeing Kids Church in North Campus, I'm not just involved in their worlds due to those 2 topics.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
good
the
point.
their whole life. You know, I'm really engaged in every area of being a mom and a wife, and even for men too. Like I'm leading men on some level because my husband and I lead North Campus, and there's men on our Kids Church team. So you have to become multifaceted. Like I can't just be one way. I have to excel in all the areas. And as a woman as well in leadership, I think you have to lean into humility and kindness.
Yeah,
because those, like, men aren't naturally necessarily that way, but women, I think, can really lean into that and excel. If you have a humble heart and a sense of humility about you, people are attracted to that.
Seems to be more of a female trait, doesn't it?
Yes, totally.
You know,
and if you're a
easier.
nice person and a nice leader and you're approachable, so much easier. Like, you're going to have so much more credibility with the people that you're leading.
And that's worth an applause, because I think you're right. None of us are perfect. We all haven't arrived. And I think a good leader has a sense of teachability and also an understanding that the team they have is there to strengthen them.
Right.
Yes.
And so in order to be an effective leader, we have to, you know, let go to the team on certain things where we don't have all the answers.
Totally.
You know, hopefully you have staffed yourself with people that can fill in your
should
gaps.
be smarter than me.
Yes.
Like,
Surrounded by
find the smartest people.
geniuses.
Yes.
I mean, that's so important.
I like the aspect too that you were mentioning with the relationship, being on the other side of it. Like, I lead a lot of areas, but I also am following in a lot of areas. And I love it because when I have my leader, my campus pastor, whoever's directly leading me, I feel like that relationship that is there makes me want to do anything for them. Because I know, like you're saying, it's more than just, hey, these are the tasks that I have you doing. you know, what can you do for me? But where it's now this relationship, and it's how's your baby, and you know, coffee when they have the time for it, if they do, and me obviously understanding it's not always going to happen. It will go. I mean, one text message from a leader in my life, I'm like, oh, yep, I will run through a wall for you for the next 5 years. Like, I'm easy to please, okay? But I love it, and I think relationship 100% is exactly what, I think, for me at least.
What you're saying is so true, and you don't have to be, it's not always being the leader because you're head of a team. You can be a leader within a team, and you emerge as that. When I used to work for a corporation here in San Diego, I remember all the different people on my team would come to me for different wisdom and advice because the manager that we had at the time actually wasn't that great at that interpersonal and communication and relationship building. So he was an expert in his field, but he wasn't necessarily an expert in terms of relationship. And so, so seeing that, it just was natural to me. I didn't try to put that on, it's just who I was. And so then you emerge as a leader in that particular area. And so I would have all kinds of people on our team coming up to me and going, Stacey, what about this? And it filled a gap that maybe my senior leader didn't have.
And I think that's important, looking at your certain set of strengths and weaknesses and going, I may be a little awkward when it comes to relationships, and not everybody is a sanguine, bubbling over, I want to see your baby photos, I want to hear about your trip to New Zealand. But if you have someone in your close proximity that can be that for you and kind of be the glue within the corporation or the organization.
And I think we don't have to overcomplicate leadership, because I remember, you know, in my growth of the past 10 years has been mostly just watching the leaders before me. And so, like, Pastor Leanne would just take me for a walk, and
we had some good walks.
Talk and chat and, like, you know, just about life, and that was leadership. Like, she is leading me, and it's more by the way she does things, not necessarily what she's saying into my life.
If we ever have to lean on title,
and because I said so,
then we've lost it already. We're actually not the leader. We're an insecure person. So I think that if our character should stand for ourselves.
100%. Well, then when you look at the example of Jesus, he had tons of people around him all the time, you know, crowds pressing in, wanting him, but he had 12 disciples. And the people that really carried on what he started were the people that he had relationship with. So if you really want to put your DNA into someone from a leadership perspective, then what you need to do is understand that that happens on a relational level.
And pay it forward.
Pay it forward.
Pay it forward. What's great leadership that's been done to you, do that to others and learn. If you've had poor leadership ahead of you, learn from that and become a good leader.
Everything's a teachable experience. I remember actually the first 7 years of my ministry life were, in essence, lots of examples of how not to do things. And so it was beautiful for me because it was a lesson. It was teaching. It was beautiful because I was able to go, okay, I won't do it like that, and I won't do it like that, and I won't do it like that. And then, thank God, he gave me some beautiful, healthy examples, and so I was able to have a really well-rounded understanding of what it meant to be a great leader. All right, they're prompting us to move on, so we're going to, how do we deal with the fear and anxiety that has gripped the lives of so many people, particularly women? This seems to be prevalent in women. Maybe men are just not talking about it as much. But it's an issue that has really gripped so many, with people having to go on medication for anxiety and fear-related disorders. I wanted to open that topic up for discussion.
Yeah, Lisa. I can talk about that. That's something I struggled with. There was about a year in my life where I was having panic attacks and having fear. And I did have to take medication when I would go into those panic attacks, just because I didn't know how to handle it. But what it really was...
You did have to take medication?
Yes. Wow. And so for about a year, it just would consume my thoughts. It controlled my decisions every day. It kind of was just like, you know, these thoughts wouldn't go away. And it was a battle, and it wasn't, and so what I had to do was, and when I would take the medication, it didn't really help me, it just numbed me. So I would just be like, okay, I don't care anymore, let's just play a movie on. And that's what happened.
So the meds didn't help necessarily?
No, it didn't help the problem, it just made me not freak out. And so for a while, that was my everyday. Well, not every day I would have panic attacks, but like my life. I would struggle with these thoughts. So for me, so I did go through that battle. So I feel like I can speak from that now, because that was like 10 years ago or so. So what happened to me was I would just have to, like, there's a spiritual side of it. It was actually a spirit of fear that was on me that that would cause me to have these anxieties about not even anything tangible. It was just Like
so
I can't
there was
even.
no root cause. You couldn't say this traumatic event happened and then I was afraid.
Wow.
No, there wasn't. It was just this generalized sense of fear, and then because I didn't know what to do with it, it would turn into these not healthy thoughts that would lead me into panic attacks. So, so I had to deal with that for a while. So what ended up happening after I got tired of, I was like, I do not want to live like this.
Yeah, tired
so
of being tired.
Yeah, and I was like, this is not how I want to be. So I started to, you know, I'm like, okay, you know, perfect love casts out fear, and that's the Bible tells us that. So I would just, instead of battling the negative thoughts, I would just be like, nope, like just focus my thoughts on good thoughts and Jesus and what he says about me and what, you know, he loves me. And so I really had to replace those thoughts with a positive thought. And so that's actually what ended up happening. I had to retrain how I thought.
Absolutely.
Because every little thing they would come still, and I'd be like, okay, no, like I'm not going to act on that.
Yeah.
And so it was a process. Wow. But it definitely was debilitating because it didn't keep me from doing things in life, but it was always in my mind. I felt like I was... It was always this voice, like controlling my thoughts, and I just wanted to be free of it, and that's kind of what happened. I was like, "This is it."
So you went about thought replacement therapy.
Yes.
That's interesting because the Bible talks about taking every thought captive and bringing it under submission of the knowledge of Christ. So actually, when a thought comes in, having a moment to discern where has this thought come from. Has this come from the understanding that I am a loved child of God, or has this come from the other guy? Is this a thought that has been sent to torment and destroy me? And then once you've made that decision and determination, replacing that thought with a positive thought. God loves me, God is for me, God said he would never leave me or forsake me. Yeah.
I think, you know, even that scripture you just mentioned, God will never leave you or forsake me, is something that's so close to my heart because some of you, I've told you guys my story, but when I think about my life, I was born into an immediate space of fear. My whole situation was immediately fear. My mom battled with bipolar schizophrenia, so when she would be in her manic phrases, it was a fearful, like, mania, and it was just the most wild thing. And I feel like it affected me so much longer than I thought. I thought I had dealt with it, and it's interesting how I feel like fear and anxiety like to pop up. Like I dealt with it in one area, but it was interesting how I got married and I was ready to start a family, but then this thought came up where I was like, oh, if I have a baby, then it's gonna mess with my chemical imbalance, and then I'm gonna become bipolar because that's what happened to my mom.
Wow.
And I had this understanding that the hormones of being pregnant and then the bipolar was just gonna manifest in this crazy woman. And the things I had to walk through as a child, I was like, I don't wanna reproduce that. I don't even know if I want a baby. I don't know if I wanna become a mom. And so Kenny and I actually waited for 10 years to have a baby, and we'd revisit it every now and then. And I remember my friends like, oh my gosh, you're gonna have a baby, you're gonna have a baby. I'm like, yeah, oh, I'm so scared.
Wow.
To the point of where it would actually rob me of my sleep, where I remember at night I would feel like so anxious about it, where like you were saying with your thoughts, it would just come in and it would be these what ifs that physically would keep me awake. I felt like I was a zombie. And I had to get the spiritual help. I had to find someone who could really dig in spiritually and get delivered of that spirit of fear. But just like what you were saying too, is I actually had to retrain my thoughts. And then for me personally, it was even like just jumping in. And I always talk about like, how do you jump off the ground? You just jump your legs off the ground, you're off the earth, that's how you jump. And for me, it was like a faith thing where I'm just gonna have to have a baby. And if I go crazy, I go crazy.
Right.
But I had to make that first step. And then once I got pregnant, even then it was a matter of, okay, I'm okay. God says that he'll never leave me, forsake me. I am created healthy. I mean, all these things I would rehearse over myself and my baby, and it's been an incredible journey. And being able to rewrite the history and the lineage for my future children.
It's so beautiful,
and still being able to honor my mom. And actually now it's interesting where I'm able to walk her through health, to be a healthy grandma to my baby. Like, it's amazing.
We can't underestimate the power of confessing the word in these situations. And I know we have a lot of viewers that wouldn't call themselves Christian, but this works.
Absolutely.
This works, I would say, be introduced to Jesus and learn how to retrain your brain. But, you know, the Bible does say that God has not given us a spirit of fear.
Right.
So through the process of elimination, we realize if God didn't give us a spirit of fear, it must have come from the other guy.
Right.
So let's not accept it, and then also acknowledge that the Bible says he hasn't given us a spirit of fear. However, he has given us a spirit of power. You're not disempowered. You're not a victim. You are powerful. Love over fear, over hatred, and a sound mind. and self-control.
And if we strip back, and first I just want to say, so proud of you for going on that journey. And what a beautiful, shining example of actually facing a real fear and facing real things we're born into, so we can't control. That's something we can't control.
Right.
The families that we're born into, the functions or dysfunctions that we were born into. But what we can control from that point forward is ourselves and our response to the situations that we face. And I find if we were kind of to boil it down, and we've kind of talked a little bit about it with both your stories, it's, I see it in kind of two directions. One, we talked about dealing with an actual spirit that is plaguing us. And then two, rejuvenation and transformation of the mind. And I just want to, say this, because there's a whole lot of fear around words like deliverance and, all these types of things.
It doesn't have to be
it's just an ill spirit that shouldn't be there. It's, and I think a really just practically just a simple thing to do, either yourself or with someone, within the church, is to bind and break that spirit that has been plaguing you. And it's as easy as this. I will not receive in the name of Jesus. I bind and I break in the name of Jesus that spirit of fear. And I thank you, God, for a spirit of peace. It's that simple to actually break up. And I think that people need to know that, because there's liberation, there is freedom, there is hope. And I think we've got to deal with that spiritual side of it. But it doesn't stop there. We can't just go, well, we prayed it out.
It's done.
Prayer is one side of it. But then we are body, soul, and spirit. And we've got to take control over that body, over the rejuvenation, of the mind. And so we participate, in that as well. So I would say those two things probably.
Working together.
And I would say I've had to pray that prayer many times.
It's
not like one time and then I'm like, I'm good. Like Ashley said, it comes back, it creeps back, or it even just tries to whisper to me, and I'm like, nope, so I have to do that all the time.
Call it out.
And I would say it's so isolating to be in that place. Like where I was at, because you feel like people don't understand, or if I tried to tell somebody, it's not a rational fear, or it's not rational.
That's
so
irrational.
People don't understand what you're going through, so it's really isolating, like you're alone. So it's
you
it's
think
kind of
you're
hard.
alone,
but in your mind, because it's all up here. So I would say another thing that can help you, or would help me, is that when you start helping others, or you start serving others, it takes the focus off you and onto others. It really helps.
There's a power to being busy, not in a bad sense, not distracted, but keeping yourself occupied with good things.
Yeah, and I think, too, that's exactly a tactic to make you feel like you're all alone and that you're having these irrational fears. Truth be known, I mean, we talk to tons of people all the time, and there is crazy stuff out there. What I think is weird to me.
Let's be clear.
There's all these, and I think when we actually have the confidence to share with a friend or a pastor or a leader, and we actually expose it, we actually find, actually it's not all that irrational. It's very a real thing that you're dealing with, and we can deal with that. So I would say for anybody that is listening to if you're dealing with that kind of a thing, to bring it out into the open with the right people so that it can be dealt with properly.
So, brilliant point. I want to talk about this in the respect of children, because our kids, like that's a breeding ground for fear. I know when I grew up, I was afraid of the dark, I was afraid of monsters, and my parents would always say, "You've got nothing to be afraid of. It's just your imagination." And they were beautiful, beautiful parents that were trying to help me the best they could at that stage. But I've come to grow up and realize I would have preferred if they would have empowered me to deal with that fear. By saying, you know what, there are things out there that should cause you to be afraid, but here's how you deal with it. Here's what you do when that fear creeps in. Don't just kind of say, oh, that's silly. Rather, in a lot of senses, take authority over whatever it is that maybe is causing you the fear, and go, you know what, God is for me, he's not against me, he protects me, he is stronger than any present evil out there.
And that's what we have to do as parents, God has given us the tools as parents to teach our children how to be empowered. And I got to pray with a 6-year-old little girl a couple Sundays ago, and she was gripped with fear and anxiety, waking up with nightmares. And I spoke with the mother first and then prayed with the daughter, and actually took communion with the daughter and taught her about communion and all of that. And the mom came back a week later and said, my daughter has been completely released. The mom didn't know what to tell her daughter. The mom didn't know how to navigate this. And so it took someone teaching them and leading them through this. And now the mom's equipped, and now the mom knows how to help her daughter through these situations and has been completely released of the fear that was
Because if we say it's not real, but it's very real to them, it's very real to the person, it diminishes what they're feeling as opposed to empowering them to know how to deal with it.
Perception is reality. So it's a perception, but it's very real to them. And you've got to deal with whatever is being perceived as darkness, evil, fearful, whether it's, you know, our sense of realness or it's the perception in their mind. Either way, like you said, I feel like it's something that needs to be exposed and dealt with. And I think what a beautiful way, like in a story where you hear of Ashley, she didn't know she was born into a family like this, but she had an outlet of going to someone to go, I don't know how to deal with this. And then getting the tools and the teaching and applying those things. So again, utilizing one another's expertise and relationships. We don't have to navigate life alone.
Yes, we don't.
You know?
Brilliant.
So what would you say to someone out there that is struggling very, very really with fear and anxiety right now? What would be step one?
Acknowledge that it's happening. You know, and we can say it even here today. You know, we affirm, you know, that there's these very real evils in the world. So I would say, you know, acknowledgement is the first, but we never want to acknowledge and then not do something about it.
Right.
Because there's hope and there's freedom. And so I want every person to know, if you're dealing with something that's debilitating, plaguing, whatever that may be, that you there's absolutely hope in it. So I think the second step would be to speak about what you're dealing with a trusted person. That might be a parent, it might be an aunt and uncle, it might be a friend, it might be a leader in the church. But I think the second thing is to expose it to someone who can actually speak into it. And then thirdly, apply whatever wisdom has been given to you. Because oftentimes we can give the tools, but unless you actually apply those things, rejuvenation of the mind can't happen by somebody else telling you just to do it. You actually have to replace those thoughts. And as you do that, you'll gain freedom and liberation. And you're on a journey of freedom where 10 years later, you know, you're rocking it out and not having those, you know, attacks.
And free from having to take medication. So isn't that beautiful? And I know that sometimes it's necessary to find your feet. So if you're out there today and you're having to take medication for a fear or anxiety disorder, absolutely no condemnation. But I would say it's a part of your story, but it's not the end of your story. And you know, I think that advice you gave is so fantastic and so applicable and will really yield some great results in your life. So wonderful. Well, we've come to the end of another show. You can catch us next week on Facebook and YouTube. Next week, we're going to be talking about what does a good wife look like? Oh man, okay, there's a lot to pull out of that topic. And the second topic we're going to be hitting is, does a balanced life really exist?
It's a great question.
I don't know. Is it a unicorn? Is it just a fantasy? We're going to be discussing that. So we want you to log on to YouTube, Facebook, share and comment. But don't miss our next episode next week, Cherish TV, where we bring you a different view.
Who can find a virtuous woman? For her worth is far above rubies. She seeks wool and flax, and willingly works with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She also rises while it is yet night, and provides food for her household. She girds herself with strength, and her lamp does not go out by night. She stretches out her hands to the distaff, and her hand holds the spindle. She extends her hand to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household is clothed with scarlet. She makes tapestry for herself. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. Whoa!